Wait, you're sleeping there? I exclaimed in surprise. Currently, I was house-sitting for my brother and his wife while they were on a trip, accompanied by my niece, Emily, in my brother's house. Despite the absence of her parents, Emily seemed unusually insistent on not having my daughter, Alice, over, even though we had planned for a day of fun together. Instead, we spent the evening playing games and preparing dinner. As the night progressed, Emily's behavior became increasingly peculiar. She stuck close to me, her eyes darting around the room as if she were on guard against an invisible threat. When I finally confronted her about her strange demeanor, she insisted that everything was fine, although her actions suggested otherwise. When bedtime arrived, Emily surprised me by opening the closet door, revealing a neatly prepared set of bedding. Without hesitation, she crawled into the closet and lay down on the mattress inside. Stunned, I blurted out, "Wait, Emily, you're sleeping in there?" With a serious expression, she reassured me, "Yes, but it's okay. I'll leave it slightly open. If anything happens, I'll wake up right away." Attempting to conceal my bewilderment, I tentatively proposed, "Why don't we sleep together tonight?" After some persuasion, Emily reluctantly agreed and climbed into my bed. She inquired if it was permissible to keep the bedding in the closet, her chosen hiding spot. Although it only deepened the mystery, I consented. Curiosity piqued, I asked, "Why do you need a hiding place?" Emily, after extracting a promise from me not to laugh, whispered her response, "The monster is coming." Initially, I found her fear endearing, akin to a child's imaginative tale. However, the story that unfolded next shattered my skepticism. Emily trembled, clutching my arm. "The monster is very scary and clever. It only comes when Daddy is not here. Mommy says I can't leave the closet until she has driven the monster away. She always cries while she's doing it." I tried to help her once, but it was too scary when it pounded on the closet door. As I held the frightened Emily close, a sinking realization settled in. The monster, it seemed, was real. I was caught off guard by my sister-in-law's affair, and suddenly, her unfaithfulness seemed to manifest as this ominous presence in their lives. The evidence was before me. Emily's father's absence, her aversion to my daughter's presence, her watchful eyes on the windows and the front door. It all pointed to her genuine fear. My heart ached for sweet Emily and for my brother, who trusted his wife implicitly. Anger boiled within me, but my immediate concern was to reassure Emily. Gripping her hand, I offered a reassuring smile. "It's okay because Aunt Lily is here today. The monster is clever, right? Maybe it won't come in because it sees a stranger. And your mom, who's usually targeted, is with your dad today, so the monster can't approach her." Yet despite my attempts to comfort her, Emily's anxiety persisted and grew with each passing moment. In an effort to help her confront her fears, I suggested hiding in the closet together, urging her to talk openly about the monster. However, as Emily revealed another alarming detail, my concern deepened. Unable to contain my apprehension, I found myself rushing out of the house with Emily, still clad in her pajamas, desperate to protect her from the impending threat. In a rush, I drove back home and explained the unsettling situation to my husband, who promptly headed to my brother's house with his friends in tow. Around 10 p.m. that night, as they arrived at my brother's place, I received a call from my brother, who was still on vacation, inquiring about Emily's well-being. "Did Emily go to bed? Forget about your husband and daughter, get some rest yourself. Make sure to lock the doors, okay? Good night," he advised sternly before hanging up, emphasizing the need for security and rest. After assuring him about Emily, I looked at her, peacefully sleeping beside my daughter, and made a silent vow to protect her from the unseen menace. The following morning, my husband returned after staying the night at my brother's house. His account of the previous night's events filled me with a mixture of fear and anger, validating my decision to leave my brother's house. Throughout the day, I remained at home with Emily and my family, awaiting my brother and his wife's arrival to collect their daughter. When they finally saw us, my brother's immediate reaction was accusatory, demanding why Emily and I had left the house against his instructions. "Why didn't you guys stay at the other house? I told you repeatedly not to leave our home." What were you thinking, going back to your own place after agreeing not to?" he protested vehemently. Sensing something amiss, I calmly questioned my brother about how he knew we weren't at his house while he was away. He hesitantly revealed that he had given Emily a smartphone with GPS functionality. However, his explanation seemed inconsistent, given his earlier insistence over the phone that we shouldn't leave. I decided to press further, questioning my brother about two unfamiliar men who had visited my house late at night. His demeanor changed, his voice shaky, and his eyes avoided mine as he attempted to provide an explanation. Before I could delve deeper, my sister-in-law intervened, forcefully calling Emily over and urging her to leave. In an abrupt shift, my brother, while still upset, started pushing Emily towards the door, attempting to take her back home with them. I protested vehemently, trying to prevent them from leaving, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. Emily, clearly distressed, reached out to me, and I instinctively pulled her behind me, shielding her from their insistent grasp. "Hey, we're not done talking yet," I called out, my voice determined, refusing to let them take Emily away without addressing the mounting questions and concerns that clouded the air. "What do you think you're doing?" My sister-in-law's voice rose in surprise, and she released Emily's hand. However, I kept Emily protected behind me, away from my brother and his wife. They hurled aggressive words at us and charged forward, fueled by anger. My husband and I were resolute in our determination not to let them take Emily, managing to force them out of the room. At the front door, waiting police officers swiftly apprehended my brother and his wife. The officers attempted to calm the disoriented couple, clearly caught off guard by the turn of events. In response, my brother argued, "If you don't give us back our daughter, then you should be the ones getting detained." My sister-in-law added, "They took our daughter from home and locked her up here. Please save Emily right away. You shouldn't be holding me back. I won't run or hide, so let me go," my brother shouted in frustration. Emily and my daughter, who had noticed the commotion and come out, were talking behind me, looking surprised. My daughter innocently remarked, "She doesn't seem locked up at all." I wasn't sure if my brother heard her, but he turned to Emily and commanded her to come to him in a strong tone. However, the severity of her father's demeanor scared her, and she refused to leave my side. My sister-in-law stood silently by the police officer, just watching my brother, not attempting to call Emily over. Enraged that things weren't going his way, my brother continued to yell in the entrance, completely restrained by the police officer. Witnessing this, my husband pushed his smartphone in front of my brother's face. Noticing this, I told Emily and my daughter to wait once more in the other room and shut the door so they wouldn't hear the audio. After confirming this, my husband started playing a video he had recorded at my brother's house the night before without uttering a word. The video began with a key slowly turning in the lock of the house. It seemed they had used a spare key. Two men quietly entered the room, their faces filled with anticipation. They greeted each other, mentioning my brother's name. "Didn't know we had company. Hey, how much did you pay?" One of them smirked, eyeing my husband and his friends. When my husband's friend gave a vague response, avoiding the question, one of the men boasted that because they were good friends with my brother and his wife, they got an even bigger discount, mentioning a specific amount. They continued, "We're lucky we get to play with the kids today." The man's laughter was sinister. I couldn't see the screen, but the audio alone was enough to make my skin crawl. Afterwards, my husband's friend bombarded the men with questions, asking if they often came to this house and if they always came as a pair. Sensing something was off, the men asked where Emily and I were. Seeing my husband's enraged expression as he responded that we weren't there, the men finally realized the gravity of the situation. Realizing they weren't among friends, the men quickly fled. Until the very end, they were either unaware of my husband's recording or deliberately didn't mention it. My brother, supposed to be their close acquaintance, seemed to have discovered the existence of the video for the first time and was visibly shaken. Now deathly pale, he frantically stated, "I didn't know anything. I've been framed." Upon watching the incriminating video, my assumption that my brother was innocent and my sister-in-law was the mastermind crumbled. The footage provided undeniable proof of my brother's involvement in offering up Emily and me. His feigned ignorance wouldn't deceive anyone. My brother was taken away by the police, while my sister-in-law pretended to be clueless about the situation. However, the police officer, having already heard Emily's testimony, asked her to accompany him for further questioning. Consequently, they both ended up in custody together. In subsequent police interrogations, my brother and his wife confessed to everything and were arrested. It was revealed that my sister-in-law lured men into their home on nights when my brother worked late shifts, exploiting Emily discreetly to meet the demand for children in certain circles. Emily, unaware of the sinister nature, posed as instructed, thinking she was helping her bullied mother. The innocent photos of Emily were manipulated by my sister-in-law. She developed the images and displayed them to customers, creating a bidding frenzy as if in an auction. Shockingly, she never sold the photos. She only lent them out. While this nefarious business had nothing to do with my husband and me, my brother, upon discovering his wife's illicit dealings, didn't reprimand her or protect his daughter. Unbelievably, he started gathering more customers, thinking it would increase revenue. With a twisted rationale, he coerced me into this horrid business, threatening me by capturing images of the scene. One day, when the neighbors were absent, they locked Emily and me in their house, exchanged the spare key for a hefty sum of money, and left town for an overnight trip, all to establish an alibi. However, what they didn't anticipate was Emily's courage. She had always obeyed my sister-in-law unquestioningly, but to protect me, she confided in me about the monsters, unknowingly shedding light on their nightmarish situation. That evening, upon learning about Emily's ordeal, I asked my husband to capture the images of these so-called monsters. The police swiftly acted on the information we provided. When we reported the situation, the police officer ensured Emily's safety from my brother and his wife. Subsequently, my brother and his wife were arrested on grave charges, including violations of child welfare laws and laws preventing child exploitation. Despite being first-time offenders, they couldn't escape imprisonment. The photos of Emily, taken over several years, were deemed highly malicious. Once an image was leaked on the internet, it could never be erased. I was utterly shocked when the police revealed this information to me. Fortunately, my sister-in-law hadn't digitized or sold Emily's photos, keeping them securely stored and preventing any leakage. The fact that my brother, who had always been kind and reliable, could turn into such a terrible person terrified me. Until that moment, we had been helping each other as we always had. The realization that I hadn't noticed this dark side of him haunted me. Regardless, I wanted them to face the consequences of their actions. After my brother and his wife were arrested, the individuals referred to as the monsters were also brought in for questioning by the police. They attempted to claim their innocence, arguing that their plans hadn't succeeded, and therefore they weren't guilty. However, the discovery of another child's photographs at their residence and the involvement in additional criminal acts confessed by my brother and his wife during their interrogations led to their arrest on multiple charges. Once we had dealt with the monsters that had plagued our lives, we visited Child Protective Services to inquire about Emily's situation. With her parents arrested, Emily was left without anyone to care for her. In truth, her parents were unfit guardians from the start, so custody of Emily was rightfully taken away from my brother and his wife. Neither my brother nor I had any living parents, and my sister-in-law's family was entirely estranged. We discovered that if no one from her family agreed to take her in, Emily would be placed with foster parents. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to adopt Emily. To me, Emily was not only someone I felt deeply indebted to, but also a girl I had grown to love as my own daughter. The mere thought of leaving her was unbearable. Thankfully, my husband agreed, and we viewed this as an opportunity to move to my in-laws' town. Our daughter, who adored her grandparents and had always longed for an older sister, was overjoyed. She eagerly anticipated the weekends when she could see her grandparents more frequently. Now, her dream of having Emily, whom she adored as a big sister, had come true. As for Emily, who had finally escaped the clutches of her abusive parents, she adapted remarkably well to her new environment as an older sister. It was incredible to witness the resilience of children. She was gradually embracing a happier and more peaceful life.